Good morning, fourth grade, and happy Monday. All right, so today we're going to focus on how we can relate decimals and fractions. All right, so the first thing we need to know and to remember is a couple of things that we can see right here on the board. All right, so anytime we see a decimal point, we know that says the word and. Anything to the left of the decimal point is now in the whole number range. Anything to the right of the decimal point is less than one whole, okay? So the numbers to the left again to the decimal is one whole or greater, okay? At least one whole. And then to the right is less than a whole. And that's where those fractions do come in, okay? All right, so to read the decimal number 2.48 or 2 and 48 hundredths, first we need to say the whole number part, okay? It's the first thing we're reading from left to right. So you say it 2, okay? And for the decimal point, say the part less than 1 as a whole number. So you're just saying this number. So you just read it. 2 and 48. And then you say the place value of the last digit. This is the very last digit. So you're going to say the place value for that last place digit. Okay? So it says 2 and 48 hundredths. As long as you remember what the decimal says the word and. Anything to the left is one whole or greater. That's where our whole numbers go. And then less than whole. And it starts with, you know, that ones, tens, hundreds, and so on. But when we get to our less than whole, it starts with the tenths. Okay, so again, one more time, this number is read as 2 and 48 hundredths. All right, so now we're going to fill in some sentences here. Blank pennies are in $1. So how many pennies are in $1? 100. All right, so we know that there are 100 pennies in $1. Blank whole dollars can be made with 248 pennies. So if I have 248 pennies, how many whole dollars do I have? Okay, and knowing that there are 100 pennies in $1, so that's 248 minus 100, okay? And then another 100 would make another dollar. So 100 plus 100 would give me 200. Can I add another 100 pennies to give me another whole dollar? No, because I only have 248. So I would have 2 whole dollars that can be made with 248 pennies. How many cents would be left over if I took the 2 whole dollars? How many cents would be left over? 48. I know that a lot of you are saying that already out loud. All right, so you would have 2 whole dollars and 48 cents left over. All right. If 1 cent is 1/100th of a dollar, 48 cents would be considered what as a fraction? One more time. If 1 cent or 1 penny is 1/100th of a dollar, how would you write 48 cents as a fraction? 48 hundredths. We know this because every penny is worth 1 cent. Okay? And you need 100 pennies to equal 1 whole dollar. So that denominator tells us how many it's out of total. That is our whole number. So in order to get to 100, or in order to get 1 whole, I need to get a total of 100. Because if I had 100 over 100, that would again give me 1 whole, because we know that anytime you have a numerator and denominator that are the same number, that equals 1 whole. Okay? So $1.48. That's what it would look like, or 1 cent, excuse me, 1 cent and 48 cents. now now we have a fraction, 48 hundredths, or 48 over 100, over 100. And we want to put that into a dollar amount and what that would look like as a decimal using our dollar symbol. So we know that in order to get one whole something to the left of our decimal, we would need to have the same number up here as we do down here, right? And we don't, we have less than that. So we know we're going to have something only to the right of our decimal number because this is a fraction of a whole. So this is going to read 48 hundredths. 48, again, say the whole number, and the 8 is in the hundredths place. When we're dealing with money or decimals, we need to make sure there's always a number that represents a number in front of our decimal. So if we don't quite yet have a whole, we have to write a whole number still, and 0 is still a whole number. Okay. All right, so we have 48 hundredths, or 48 cents, as we would mention it as a dollar or cent value. How would we write $2.48? Remember that the whole number, what the decimal says, and what the fraction of a whole are going to look like. So you're going to write it just the way it is from left to right. $2, dollar sign goes in front of the whole number. $2.48. So we know what $2.48 looks like. We know how to say it, and now understanding the relationship between our dollars, our fraction, and how to write that as a decimal. All right, so we're going to do a little bit of practice. Before we get into our practice, just a quick reminder. All right, so just keeping in mind what it looks like with our whole number, decimal, and then fraction of a whole number. If we were to have this decimal number, I want to know how I can turn this into a fraction. If I can say this using this method, this way to tell the fraction and the decimal, I should be able to write it as a fraction. So again, starting from left to right, 1, what does this say? And say the whole number, 3 is in which place value? If you're not sure, it's okay to write it under one of these, okay? So 1 3/10. How would you write that as a fraction? You know that as a fraction, 1 being the whole number, okay? And then 3/10, what that looks like. All right, let's try another one, and I'm going to go ahead and try and put it right under here. Actually move this because I might need to use that space down the road. All right. All right, I'm just lining it up. If you're not sure where it needs to go, just start with the decimal. Okay, if you have a decimal number, you're going to have a decimal. Start with that, and then insert your whole numbers and numbers that represent less than one whole. So you have 3 and 14, the last place value, hundredths. One more time, 3 and 14 hundredths. How you say it is how you're going to write it here. 3 and 14 hundredths. Okay, let's try another one. How do you say this? Do we have to say the 0? There is 0 value in the whole number. we do need to write something because there's a decimal number. Something does need to go in front. Even though this has 0 value, we still have to write it in. But do we have to say it? No, not really. Okay, so we skip the 0. We don't have to say 0 and. We just say 8 hundredths. 8 hundredths. The reason we're not saying the word and is because there is no value that is at least 1 whole. So you only say the and when you have a whole value and a value of less than 1 whole. Okay, so you're not saying 0, you're not saying and when you have only less than a value of 1. So saying just the number 8. Last place value, hundredths, 8 hundredths. And one last one. All right, one more time. Not needing to say the 0. We just need to put a placeholder here because it's incorrect when you have a decimal with no actual whole number representative of a whole. Okay, so not saying the whole number, not saying and because there is no value in our wholes place. So we're starting here with the actual value that we have, which is less than 1 whole. 40 hundredths. Again, how you say it is how you're writing it. So make sure that you are writing it and saying it according to this chart and how your fraction is represented. All right, last thing we're going to do is how would we write this in words and as a fraction? How would we write this in words and as a fraction? So what I'm saying is how I say it using this chart would be the words and then transfer it into from decimal to fraction. Okay, exactly what we've been doing. So how do I say this? Again, no whole value, don't need to say the and, number, whole number, and place value. So this would be 8 tenths, 8 tenths, which would also be written as a fraction as 8 tenths. Ta-da! Okay, this is a good review for fractions and decimals that we have been spending lots of time in 4th grade. So again, relating decimals and fractions and finding that understanding between the two. Okay, a lot of understanding really does lead into the way of money and how decimals play a part and how it becomes a fraction of a whole or a mixed number that combines both whole and less than a whole. Okay, all right. So today's assignment is just a couple of questions, still working on the same skills that we worked on in this video. Again, if you have questions you do need to ask, please ask. Do your best, hang in there. You guys are doing a really great job. Just keep doing what you're doing. And again, ask for help if you need it, okay? You guys got this. And